Andy Johnson, Minnesota State University. The topic of this YouTube is called, or the title, Louisa Moats, Saint or Sinner? And I am going to ask the questions, is she a saint or a sinner? Is she a prophet or a profiteer? Scholar or dollar, for people or for profit? Letters, science, or snake oil? And there's Louisa Moats, the author of Literacy Professional Learning, LETRS. Okay? Now, is Louisa Moats the Tucker Carlson of reading instruction? Or is she the Moses of reading instruction? The question I put to you is this: is she willfully ignorant, purposely dishonest, simply confused, or is she the most outstanding literacy scholar in the last 2,000 years? I don't know. I'm going to let you decide. But Louisa Moats is the author of LETRS Professional Development, and this is what I'll be focusing on. The good Dr. Moats and her LETRS Professional Development program, because many gullible turkeys are gobbling up her gobbledygook. And this may be really hard to believe, but state legislatures, even Minnesota, are introducing bills making LETRS training mandatory. Can you imagine that? People who know nothing about reading instruction are telling literacy experts how reading instruction should go. And sadly, many school administrators are wasting valuable tax dollars to enrich Cambium learning, which is behind LETRS, which is already worth $700 million. And this money could be spent on good books, smaller class sizes, teacher wages, buying teacher supplies. Now we're going to look at her sources. We're going to look at the sources Dr. Moats uses, how she interprets her sources, and how did she use the sources to support her statements. So, Louisa Moats, again, is the author of LETRS. It's described as a professional learning course for instructors of reading, spelling, and related skills. It provides educators with in-depth knowledge and tools they can use with any reading program. Nothing wrong with this. We can all agree that legitimate continuing professional development for practicing teachers is a very good thing. It's not possible to create a finished teaching product in 3 semesters of any teacher preparation program. So, yes, on continuing legitimate professional development. And continuing means that it builds upon what has already been learned. And also continuing means that learning will continue to take place. It doesn't stop. The field changes. We all need to continue to learn new things and learn old things at higher levels and in new ways. I've been in education almost 40 years, and I haven't come close to learning everything that I want to learn. I need to continue learning. Legitimate continuing learning. And legitimate also means that there's a strong connection to a wide body of research, not a single study, and it's connected to and supported by a robust theoretical model. So, is LETRS legitimate? I don't know. I'm not going to make the call. That will be up to you. I will just provide you with a little background information. The good Dr. Moats has courses and modules available for teachers. Nothing wrong with that. Courses and modules can be very good things. Some of my best friends have courses and modules. However, the course is $1,545 per course. That's the cost. And applicable fees. In addition to the cost of tuition, each student must have a LETRS textbook and an online license, $165. Very good, very good. The good Dr. Moats has courses and modules available for teachers. Again, nothing wrong with this. But $1,545 per course? Think how many good books could be bought for a classroom for that amount of money. Think about how many good textbooks you could buy about reading instruction for that amount. Her LETRS program has 12 modules. Now, is the course the same as a module? The website doesn't tell us. But we do know that there's a lot of money changing hands here, and somebody has a financial incentive to say that LETRS is the best thing in the world and will solve all reading problems. Now, LETRS is part of an organization called Lexia Learning, part of Cambium Learning Group, and the Educational Essentials Company. The net worth is around $700 million. And if we all work really hard, I'm sure we can help Cambium Learning Group get above $7 million. And wouldn't that be something? Sarcasm noted. For comparison, I am part of a public university, for people, not for profit. I'm supported by tuition and public tax dollars. My net worth, considerably less than Cambium Learning Group. Extremely considerably less. Now, whose voice speaks the loudest at state legislatures? A loud 700 million non-expert voice, or the quiet, nasally excited voice, the $2 voice of a literacy expert? 700 million non-expert, $2 expert. For background, it's important to know that my contract at Minnesota State University calls for me to engage in teaching, scholarship, and service. That is my job. As part of my service, I create podcasts and YouTubes and other things just like this one. Now, I don't get paid anything extra for preparing these. Consider this a public service announcement based on a whole bunch of scholarship, but I'm doing what the state of Minnesota hired me to do 27 years ago, is to be and become a literacy instruction expert, and they pay me to use this expertise to teach pre-service teachers and practicing teachers and move the field forward and address things like the science of reading and letters. Why do I bring this up? It's important that I differentiate myself from the good Dr. Moats here. My motivation is not profit. I'm not getting paid anything extra for doing this. I'm not trying to move product. I'm not trying to get internet views or likes or clicks or listens or friends. There's no ads on any of my videos or websites. I'm a public servant, an employee of the state. The state of Minnesota pays me to be well informed on these things, not to make money. So I am doing my job here. That's what my contract calls me to do. Now, in various online forums, I've expressed my skepticism of LETRS, and I am often asked the question, Dr. Johnson, you silly little bald man, have you taken the course? Have you read her book? And that's a fair question to ask. Now, I have read much of Dr. Moats' previous work, but have I taken the course? Let me answer the question this way. On the LETRS website, we'll be looking at a white paper that Dr. Moats has written and some other material. Based on this white paper alone and the rest of the material on the website and the past work of Dr. Moats, it's my professional opinion, and just my opinion, mind you, that someone would have to be an ill-informed, illiterate clown to want to spend any additional time and money for LETRS training, and LETRS material. And that's just based on what I found there. Now, I recognize I certainly could be wrong, but her white paper seems to provide a much stronger case for why somebody shouldn't give any time or money or credence to LETRS. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The white paper on the Lexia Learning website called Literacy Professional Learning, Why It's Essential. And again, everyone would agree, we all agree that that's essential. Professional development related to all aspects of teaching, especially teaching literacy, is essential. Nobody disagrees. However, some might say that professional development should be based on legitimate research and science, not on I thinkisms, pseudoscience, and clownery. Legitimate research in science versus I thinkisms, pseudoscience, and clownery. And which category does the good Dr. Moats fall in? Again, I'm just presenting the facts. It's up to you to decide. But her stuff on the website looks like an online infomercial disguised as research, and you'll notice that, and we're going to unpack some of that. Now, in her white paper, which is disguised as scholarly work, she lists 10 reasons to support her thesis that literacy professional development is essential. Again, a point with which everybody agrees. It's the statement to support this thesis, the 10 statements, that are a little bit disconcerting, along with the weaselly ways in which citations are used to support her statements. That's a bit confusing and troubling and head-scratching. So we will examine how she uses these supporting citations, and this will provide some important clues as to how you consider the legitimacy of Dr. Moats and her for-profit claims related to her for-profit programs about LETRS. Dr. Moats includes 10 declarative statements to support her central thesis that literacy professional learning is essential. Again, everybody agrees with this. And I'm going to unpack all 10 statements eventually, but this YouTube looks at just the first statement, but you can stop the video and you can read ahead here if you want to look at all 10 statements. Again, we're going to look just at statement number 1. Prior coursework has been insufficient to prepare teachers for effective literacy instruction. Insufficient. That's a very strong claim. Coursework has been insufficient. All well and good. Okay, we should be able to assume that she's able to back up this very strong claim with some solid peer-reviewed research. After all, we are scholars, not Fox News analysts. Scholars know they can't go around just saying stuff. Scholars know they must use legitimate and relevant sources and use them correctly to support their declarative statements. So let's see what the good Dr. Moats has to say. She uses 2 supporting statements to support her declarative statement. Here are the supporting statements. Higher education teacher preparation courses often teach only some of the essential components of reading recommended by major consensus reports, such as that of the National Reading Panel. That's proposition 1, supporting statement number 1. And the majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all of the essential skills involved in reading. The majority. 1 citation, 5 citations. All right? Here's that statement number 1, and she cites the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development, which was responsible for the National Reading Panel report. Within this first supporting statement, there are 2 propositions. Number 1, higher education teacher preparation courses often don't teach essential components of reading. Often. Now, how often is often? 60%, 20%? And 2, essential components of reading have been identified by major consensus reports, such as that of the National Reading Panel. These 2 propositions, and this is important, can be found within a single sentence. But Dr. Moats uses a single citation for both propositions, thereby giving the impression that both propositions are supported by the same NRP NRP citations. In other words, she is giving us the impression that there is strong research to support the proposition that higher education teacher preparation programs are not teaching the right things. That's the impression she wishes to give. But let's unpack that. I am confused because Chapter 5 of the NRP report focuses on teacher education and reading instruction. It focuses both on pre-service teacher preparation courses and professional development for practicing teachers. Yes, it does. But there's nothing in the report related to the content of teacher preparation programs. The only conclusion that's made in this report that she cites is that both pre-service education and practicing professional development programs can be effective. That's it. Now, did she actually read this report? Or did she just sound out the words? One must ask. So the first proposition, higher education teacher preparation courses often teach only some of the essential components, that one, it's simply not something that's stated in the NRP report. It's not supported by her citation. So what are we to conclude? It seems to be something Louisa Moats has made up, this proposition. What are we to conclude? The NRP citation she cleverly snuck in at the end of her sentence refers to the 5 essential components of reading instruction identified by the NRP. Has nothing to do with the content of teacher preparation courses. Has nothing to do with what is or is not taught in teacher preparation programs, or how often these essential elements are taught or not taught. So I don't know which is more disturbing, that Dr. Moats doesn't know better, or that she knows better and she does it this way anyway. But that proposition is not supported by the statement. So let's look at her second supporting statement, used to support the prior coursework is insufficient for preparing teachers to teach literacy effectively. This is her second statement. The majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses. They don't offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all of the essential skills involved in reading. And here Dr. Moats uses 5 reference citations. 5. It must be an inordinately strong supporting statement to be supported by 5 reference citations. So let us unpack each of these references to see if they do indeed support the statement that majority teacher programs don't offer courses. So let's unpack this. The majority of teacher preparation programs. How many is the majority? Is it 51% or more? Is that the majority? How is this determined? And it says these programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all of the essential skills. What is thoroughly? How do we know what isn't thoroughly prepared? What are all of the essential skills? Who decided these skills were essential, and essential to whom? Break that down. Let us now look at her first reference, Brady Gillis Smith Levet. The title of this is First Grade Teacher Knowledge of Phonological Awareness and Code Concepts, Examining Gains from an Intensive Form of Professional Development and Corresponding Teaching Attitudes. Now note the title. Examining Gains from an Intensive Form of Professional Development and Corresponding Teacher Attitudes. Does this have anything to do with teacher education programs? According to the title, it doesn't. but it could be misleading. So let me take a look at the abstract. Oh, the abstract. This study examined the efficacy of an intensive form of professional development for building the knowledge of first grade teachers in the areas of phonological awareness and phonics. Okay, we're going to see how effective it was. There was a pre and post assessment, a teacher knowledge survey, how much they knew, and a teacher attitude survey, after and before. Interesting. Attitudes on a subtest of these factors, teachers' initial knowledge scores on the TKS, and years of experience accounted for significant portions of the variance in performance on the TKS, teacher knowledge survey, after training. Is that really having to do with my statement that the majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all the essential skills and knowledge? Well, that has nothing to do with teacher preparation programs. Why indeed is she citing that? I'm very concerned here. So my conclusion is, for that first reference, it's not at all related to the claim. There's nothing here about teacher education programs and the courses they offer. Nothing. It was a study on professional development. The knowledge pretest looked at knowledge of two things, phonological awareness and phonics concepts. The researchers found that knowledge of phonological awareness and phonics concepts accounted for higher post-test scores of knowledge of phonological awareness and phonics concepts. Who would have thought? Let's take a look at reference number 2. Greenberg et al. NC. Okay, let's take a look at that. Now, this is not a reliable or valid source. There's no peer review. It is a think tank. There's no blind peer review. Their desire is to privatize education. Junk science, propaganda, not a valid or reliable source. Obviously, when they put out anything, and they put out data disguised as research, conclusions are based on collecting data to support a predetermined belief. I believe this, let's go collect some data to support what I already believe. Junk science, all right? It calls itself a leading expert, the National Council of Teacher for Teacher Quality. All right, it calls itself an expert. But if you have to call yourself something, you are more likely not that thing you're trying to call yourself. And this is funded by 31 corporate entities. None of the material on this website, none of it is subjected to blind peer review. Linda Darling Hammond, who is well known in the area of teacher research, says that their methodology is a paper review of published course requirements and course syllabi against a checklist that does not consider the real quality of instruction that programs offer, evidence of what their students learn, or whether graduates can actually teach. That's what she says about their conclusions about teacher preparation quality. All right? So we can conclude her second reference was a junk reference. Her second was junk. We shouldn't believe it. So let's take a look at the third one, her third reference. All right? Joshi, Binks, Graham, etc., etc. Do textbooks used in university reading education courses conform to the instructional recommendations of the National Reading Panel? Okay? This is a peer-reviewed journal. It's well established. However, this one appears to be looking at textbooks in reading education courses and alignment with NRP recommendations. That's what it seems to be looking for, and linguistic concepts. Let's see what the abstract tells us. 2 reasons may be responsible for the poor grasp of the linguistic concepts, and these are defined by the people who generate. This is called the study of how people generate and understand language. The authors examined the extent to which textbooks used in reading education courses contain the information about the 5 components of literacy instruction. They're looking at textbooks. Such scrutiny shows that many textbooks do not adequately cover these 5 components and the related instructional procedures for teaching them. In addition to the paucity of information about teaching the 5 components, some textbooks provide inaccurate information. So for this study, they looked at 17 textbooks from 5 well-known textbook publishers. Textbooks are not a curriculum. Textbooks are tools used with other sources. No single textbook covers everything the way you want unless you write your own textbook. And the assertion that linguistic concepts are necessary to teach effective reading is an I-thinkism based on her own experience, based on the author's own experience. Is there any scientifically derived data that says this is a significant variable in determining the quality of reading instruction teachers receive? Is there anything that supports the idea that you need linguistic knowledge, knowledge of linguistic concepts to be a good reading instruction? Knowledge of linguistic concepts. That's essentially what it was looking for. So research to support this is the variable that separates good reading instruction with bad reading instruction. All right, so declarative statement number 1, prior coursework has been insufficient to prepare teachers for effective instruction. That's the statement. Supporting statement, majority of teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all the essential skills involved in reading. Interesting. So we are going to look at this second one, this second research study here, her 4th reference. All right. So this tells us why elementary teachers might be inadequately prepared to teach reading. We might be getting someplace. The title of this. So a quick review. Again, this is our declarative statement and the supporting statement. All right, so it looks okay. Maybe we might finally be getting to a study that actually supports this. And it comes from, again, the Journal of Learning Disabilities, an established peer-reviewed journal. Let's read the abstract. Several national reports have suggested the usefulness of systematic, explicit, synthetic phonics instruction based on English word structure along with wide reading of quality literature for support. Okay, good. Other studies have indicated, however, that many in-service teachers are not knowledgeable in the basic concepts of the English language. Okay, we're talking about basic concepts of the English language versus reading instruction. All right? They may be well-versed in children's literature, but not know how to address the basic building blocks of language and reading. Okay, that's quite a stretch there. But instructors responsible for future elementary teachers are not familiar with the concepts of linguistic features of English language. That's what they're saying there. And they're saying, in this study, as you'll see, teacher educators performed poorly on concepts related to morphemes and phonemes. All right. In her second study, 40 instructors were interviewed about best teaching practices in teaching. 80% of the instructors defined phonological awareness as letter-sound correspondence. They also did not mention synthetic phonics as a desirable method to use for beginning reading instruction, particularly for students at risk for reading difficulties. The conclusions. Professional development experiences related to language concepts to instructors could provide them the necessary knowledge of language concepts related to early literacy instruction. Okay. Study 1 designed a survey asking how familiar university instructors were with something that they decided was imperative. Linguistic features of the English language. They decided that that was imperative. And they found that survey participants performed poorly on their survey asking questions about concepts that they decided were important. Morphemes and phonemes. Now, was there selection bias? And then they gave a survey to 78 college and university instructors responsible for teaching education classes. 68 had doctoral degrees, 10 were working on them, okay. All had previously taught in elementary schools. Now, teaching in an elementary school does not make one a literacy expert. They were currently teaching 2 of 4 courses in reading education. Again, lots of people teach reading classes. 30 different universities and community colleges. 78 came from 30. But it doesn't tell us how many were universities, how many were colleges, how many were community colleges. It does make a difference. And this is one of the most telling things. And this is an example of selection bias. The departments. One's department impacts the paradigm used to teach. They made this conclusion based on instructors from educational psychology, curriculum instruction, special education, English as a second language, bilingual education, reading, educational administration, and education. Only reading and curriculum instruction have to do with teaching reading, and how many came from each. Teaching experience ranged from 1 to 20 years. How many had 1? How many had 20 years? It doesn't tell us. In the second study, 40 instructors were interviewed about best practices. She found that 80% of instructors defined phonological awareness as letter-sound correspondence, but they did not mention synthetic phonics as a desirable method to use for beginning reading instruction, particularly for students at risk. They did not do that. Their conclusion: providing professional development experiences related to language concepts to instructors could provide them the necessary knowledge of language concepts related to early literacy instruction. That's their conclusion. So it was a survey with 12 questions related to the cause of reading disability, general philosophy of teaching, best practices related to the 5 components, mailed to 40 instructors from 12 universities. All had doctoral degrees. All had taught in an elementary school. Teaching experience, 1 to 26 years. It doesn't tell us how many of each. So, an analysis of the research, an analysis or the results. 80% of the survey didn't define phonological awareness correctly. 80% didn't mention synthetic phonics as a desirable method. All right, synthetic method is not phonics is not a method, it's one type of instruction. So, declarative statement number 1, prior coursework has been insufficient to prepare teachers for effective literacy instruction. Providing professional development experiences related to language concepts to instructors could provide them the necessary knowledge of language concepts. All right, that doesn't support the thesis about prior coursework and teacher preparation and the majority of teacher preparation programs. What is and isn't offered, essential skills, it just doesn't. The 4th reference. Now, the authors of this study didn't generalize the results like Dr. Moats did. Dr. Moats should not have generalized those results. It had nothing to do with her statement or her supporting statements. It's quite a stretch to use this to say that teacher preparation programs do not offer courses that thoroughly prepare teachers to build all the essential skills in reading. It does not. Why is she using that? It is very confusing. And the 5th reference, like the 2nd, junk science, a National Council for Teacher Quality. Obviously, the conclusions based on collecting data to support a predetermined belief. Now, I just examined 1 of the 10 supporting statements, not 1 of the citations she used in this first declarative statement, this first supporting statement, was relevant, was accurate, supported her thesis, not 1. So I ask you, why would anyone want to take a LETRS course based on just 1? And I've gone through all 10 of them. So Louisa Moats, saint or sinner, prophet or profiteer, scholar or dollar, for people or for profit, the LETRS program, science or snake oil. I will let you make that decision.